Hey everybody, welcome to D4. This is a channel where we specialize in building fun and powerful characters for Dungeons & Dragons, as well as some other RPGs once in a while. Right now, as I'm sure you well know, everyone in the world, myself included, is absolutely in love with Baldur's Gate 3, which is based on the D&D 5th edition rules. Today, I want to tell you about 5 things that are way more powerful in Baldur's Gate than they are in Dungeons & Dragons. I would say these things are broken, and wouldn't be surprised if Larian, the creators of Baldur's Gate, nerfed or balanced any or all of them. But for now, at least, these things work in game and they are strong. Enjoy playing with them while you can. Alright, in no particular order, OP in BG3 item number 1, the Tavern Brawler feat. In D&D, Tavern Brawler is more flavorful than it is mechanically powerful, I would argue. It lets your unarmed strikes do a little more damage, it lets you make attacks with improvised weapons, so like furniture or gnomes. It lets you grapple a little more easily, things like that. In Baldur's Gate, it doesn't have any of that grappling stuff, first of all, because, well, you can't grapple in BG3. It just straight up tells you that when you make an unarmed attack, use an improvised weapon, or throw something, your strength modifier is added twice, 2 times, to the damage and, incredibly, I think, to the attack rolls. So, yes, if you are, for example, trying to punch something, and you had an 18 strength on your character and were level 5, let's say, you would have a flat plus 11 to hit and plus 8 to damage on each and every hit. And that's before any other bonuses you might be getting from other sources, the Bless spell, any magic armor that you have, for example. And for those unfamiliar with D&D, that is a ton of extra plus to hit and damage. I'm kind of flabbergasted that this made it into the live version of the game because it is so incredibly strong. OP in BG3 item number 2. The Haste Spell. In D&D and Baldur's Gate, every turn, a character gets 1 action and 1 bonus action. There are ways to find exceptions to this rule, of course, and one of the most powerful is via the Haste Spell. It's a 3rd level spell, meaning that wizards and sorcerers can learn it at 5th level, and Oath of Vengeance paladins can learn it at 9th level. Confusing, I know. Now, in both D&D and Baldur's Gate, Haste gives you 1 extra action on your turn. But in D&D, the extra action you get is severely limited. You can only use it for a few things: to dash or move more, to disengage so enemies don't hit you if you move away, hide, use an object, or make 1 and only 1 weapon attack. Well, in Baldur's Gate, Larian decided to just blow the doors off the thing, because Haste just gives you a full action to do whatever you can typically do with a full action. So if you have the extra attack feature, you get to make 2 attacks. Maybe most potently, if you're a spellcaster, you can cast any spell you have at your disposal that takes an action to cast. Cantrips, spell-slotted spells, doesn't matter. This makes one of the best buffs in the game in D&D, probably the best buff in the game for most characters in Baldur's Gate. The power of having 2 full actions every single turn for an entire minute is just so strong. It's a little broken, and I'm not complaining. OP in BG item number 3, the Thief Rogue, or maybe more specifically, the Thief Rogue's feature, Fast Hands. So speaking of extra actions, Fast Hands is the bonus action equivalent to Baldur's Gate 3's version of the Haste Spell. Obtained by Thief Rogues at level 3, it just straight up gives you 2 bonus actions every single turn instead of 1. And again, if you're new to the game, that might feel like it's not a huge deal. It sounds fairly innocuous, right? A bonus action? That's probably just kind of some little thing that you can do that doesn't have a huge impact on the game, yeah? I mean, maybe for most bonus actions, sure, but there are plenty of bonus actions in this game that are pretty powerful. Making bonus action attacks if you're using 2 weapons, or have the Polearm Master feat, or are a Berserker Barbarian or a Monk, for example, among others. Casting an extra spell if you are a Sorcerer with Quickened Spell metamagic, etc., etc. Just straight up giving this subclass 2 bonus actions that can be used each and every turn to do whatever they can potentially do with bonus actions can really lead to a ton of extra power on a character, if you build around it. It's a lot of fun to play with, and can kind of feel like cheating sometimes. And nowhere is that made more apparent than in OP in BG item number 4, the fact that you can dual wield hand crossbows in Baldur's Gate. In D&D, crossbows can can be a bit tricky to use, unless you become an Artificer, a class that doesn't even exist in Baldur's Gate, and can thus craft a magical crossbow that produces its own ammo when you fire it. You always have to have a free hand to load the ammunition on your crossbow. That's not the case in Baldur's Gate, and means that if you have two-hand crossbows, the only crossbows that don't require two hands to wield, but can be wielded in just a single hand and also have the light property, meaning they can be used for two-weapon fighting, then you can put one in each hand and thus use them to make attacks with both your main hand as an action and your offhand as a bonus action. That, in and of itself, might not seem too egregious, but when you couple it with the Thief Rogue, who gets two bonus actions, things start to get spicy. And when you couple it further with the Sharpshooter feat, which adds 10 flat damage to the attacks you make with ranged weapons at a cost of a -5 penalty to hit, it enters the realm of being very overpowered. But what makes it totally broken, and I fully expect Larian to patch a fix for this soon, hopefully not before this video comes out, is that currently when you make offhand crossbow attacks with your bonus action, and you have the Sharpshooter feat, it's not applying the -5 to hit penalty to your offhand attack. And if you're a Thief Rogue with two bonus actions, yeah, busted. And also, so fun. Finally, OP in BG item number 5, the Spirit Guardians spell, and I'll say spells like it. In D&D, there are a whole host of spells with some pretty weird wording. The spell description says, when you first cast this spell that does damage in an area, creatures don't actually take damage from the spell on your turn when you cast it in the area, but instead they take the damage on their turn when they start their turn in the spell's area, or if you move them into the spell's area on your turn. So moving enemies into the area, fine. You moving the spell's area on top of an enemy, no damage taken that turn. Spells like Moonbeam, Cloud of Daggers, and Spirit Guardians are examples of spells with this kind of wording. Now, that strange rule for spells like this, it doesn't do damage to enemies on your turn, but instead on theirs, that might seem a little weird or illogical. I don't know, maybe the damage from these spells is a slow burn. But I think the main reason they make it work this way in D&D is to keep you from doing things with those spells, well, like you can in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, in BG3, these spells work differently from one another. Static spells, like Cloud of Daggers, do damage both to creatures who are standing in the spell's area of effect when you cast it, and again at the beginning of their turn, or if they move into the area on their turn. Thus, you are guaranteed 2 helpings of damage of the spell, at least on that initial round when you first cast it, once on your turn and once on theirs. This makes it incredibly potent as a multi-target spell that does some nice initial burst damage and has the potential to do some decent sustainable damage over time, right? With Spirit Guardians, the spell's area is a circle with you at its center, and the area of effect is 10 feet or 3 meters from you in every direction. Now, Spirit Guardians moves with you, and while you can't double up on the damage from it, like with Cloud of Daggers, for example, the enemy takes damage from the spell if at any point they are within 10 feet of you, whether they move close to you on their own or you just run past them. You just run around. It's the only way, as far as I know at least, to weaponize your movement in Baldur's Gate 3. And the damage it does is significant, and it's a pretty big area of effect. Now, sure, you can't potentially double up on the damage like you can in D&D if you get creative, finding ways to pull enemies towards you, for example. But you do damage just by running around, and then you still have your action and your bonus action with which to potentially do more damage on your turn. So whether we're talking static spells or spells that you can move, all of these enemies take damage if they start their turn in the area of the spell's effect. Spells from D&D are a lot more powerful in BG3 than they are in Dungeons & Dragons. And they're freaking awesome. If you want to see me use these fun and overpowered things in full character builds for your Baldur's Gate characters, where I will walk you through what choices to make level by level, here is a playlist of videos that I've created that do just that. I've got a new one coming out next week, so maybe subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss it. That would be awesome. Also, you're awesome. So thanks for watching. Take care.